Noah Kensington had it all, fame, fortune, and the world at his feet. But hiring Amina Blake as his private chef changed everything. Their stolen moments turned into something undeniable, and now she carried his twins. Love, scandal, and legacy collide. What happens next? Comment where you're watching from. The flashing cameras nearly blinded Noah Kensington as he stepped onto the red carpet. At 35, he was at the height of his career. Handsome, successful, and adored by millions. His latest movie had broken box office records, and tonight's premiere was just another reminder of how far he'd come. "Noah, over here!" shouted the photographers. He flashed his trademark smile, the one that had graced countless magazine covers. Beside him, his publicist Miranda whispered instructions in his ear. "Remember to mention the charity. And your next project. The studio wants buzz." Noah nodded, playing his part perfectly. This was the game he'd mastered over the years. Say the right things, smile at the right people, be the Noah Kensington that everyone expected. 2 hours later, he escaped the after-party and returned to his Malibu mansion, loosening his tie as he walked through the door. The house was massive, 6 bedrooms, a pool overlooking the ocean, and more space than one man could ever need. But tonight, like most nights, it felt empty. "Mr. Kensington, I didn't expect you back so early." The voice came from the kitchen. Amina Blake, his private chef of 6 months, was still there, cleaning up what looked like prep work for tomorrow's meals. "The party was boring," Noah said, tossing his suit jacket over a chair. "Everyone talking about themselves, trying to get something from me." Amina smiled. At 32, she carried herself with a quiet confidence that Noah had noticed from their first meeting. Her dark skin glowed under the kitchen lights, her curly hair pulled back in a practical bun while she worked. "I made some of that soup you liked last week," she said. "There's plenty left if you're hungry." Noah loosened his tie further. "That sounds much better than the fancy appetizers they were serving." As Amina warmed the soup, Noah watched her move around the kitchen with ease. She'd come highly recommended by his agent, who had tasted her food at a celebrity dinner party. With her culinary degree and experience working in top restaurants, she could have been running her own place. Instead, she'd chosen to work as a private chef, saying she preferred the creative freedom. "How was the premiere?" she asked, placing a steaming bowl in front of him. Like all the others, people pretending to care about the movie when they're really just there to be seen. Amina leaned against the counter. "But you must enjoy some of it, right? The recognition for your work." Noah considered this as he tasted the soup, a perfect blend of spices and comfort. "Sometimes," he admitted, "when someone mentions a scene, that actually meant something to me, not just how good I looked in it." He paused. "This soup is amazing, by the way." "Thank you," she said with a genuine smile, not the practiced ones he saw at industry events. His phone buzzed. A text from his mother, Eleanor Kensington. "You left the party too early. The Hamiltons wanted to introduce you to their daughter. Call me tomorrow." Noah sighed and put the phone face down. "Family?" Amina asked. "My mother. She's probably planning my society marriage as we speak." "Ah, the famous Kensington dynasty has expectations." There was no judgment in her voice, just understanding. That was what Noah appreciated about Amina. She saw through the celebrity facade to the person underneath. "The Kensingtons always have expectations," Noah said, finishing his soup. "My grandfather built the family fortune in real estate, not all of it clean money. Especially back then, my father expanded it. Now my brother runs the family business, while I'm the artist of the family, though they make sure I only choose respectable roles." "Must be hard living up to all that history," Amina said. "Some of it's not worth living up to," Noah replied. Thinking of the family secrets, the rumors about his grandfather's treatment of workers, the whispers of racism that still followed the Kensington name. "Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to just be normal." Amina laughed. "Normal is overrated," says the woman who built her entire career herself. "It wasn't easy," she said, taking his empty bowl. "My parents died when I was 19. I put myself through culinary school working 2 jobs, but everything I have I earned. Nobody handed me anything." Noah felt a familiar pang of admiration. In the months she'd worked, For him, their late-night conversations had become something he looked forward to, moments of honesty in his otherwise scripted life. "You should go home," he said, noticing the time. "It's late." "Just finishing up tomorrow's prep," Amina replied. Returning to her work, Noah stood. "I can help," she raised an eyebrow. "A Hollywood star chopping vegetables? I don't think so." "I'm not completely useless," he said, rolling up his sleeves. "I played a chef in that movie 3 years ago." "Oh, you mean when you held the knife all wrong and they had to use a hand double for the close-ups?" Amina teased. Noah laughed, a real laugh that few people ever heard from him. "You caught that, huh?" For the next hour, they worked side by side, Amina teaching him the proper way to chop herbs. Their hands occasionally brushed, and Noah found himself intentionally reaching for the same ingredients she was using just to create that brief contact. When they finished, Noah opened a bottle of wine. "Thank you for the cooking lesson." They sat at the kitchen island, talking about everything and nothing, favorite books, places they wanted to visit, childhood memories. Noah felt the tension of the premiere night melting away. "You know," he said after his second glass, "you're probably the only person in my life who doesn't want something from me." Amina looked at him thoughtfully. "Maybe I just haven't asked yet." Their eyes met and Noah felt something shift between them. The kitchen suddenly seemed smaller, more intimate. He noticed the curve of her lips, the way her eyes crinkled when she smiled. "Amina," he said quietly, The sound of the front door opening interrupted him. His brother James's voice echoed through the house. "Noah, you hear? Your car's outside." The moment shattered. Amina stood quickly, gathering her things. "I should go," she said. James appeared in the kitchen doorway, eyeing the wine and the two of them with suspicious curiosity. At 40, James was the perfect Kensington, polished, powerful, and coldly ambitious. "I didn't realize you had company," James said, his gaze lingering dismissively on Amina. "I was just leaving, Mr. Kensington," Amina said professionally, all warmth gone from her voice. "Good night, Noah. I'll be here at the usual time tomorrow." After she left, James helped himself to the wine. "Bit friendly with the help, aren't you?" Noah bristled. "Don't call her that." "What should I call her? She works for you, doesn't she?" James swirled the wine in his glass. "Mom told me you ditched the party early. The Hamiltons were disappointed. I'm not interested in being set up with another society princess." "It's not about interest. It's about what's appropriate for someone in your position." James set down his glass. "The studio executives called me today. They're concerned about those pictures that surfaced from your trip to Miami. I was at the beach with friends. Friends who don't fit the Kensington image. You know how it looks." Noah's jaw tightened. The friends had been the diverse cast of his upcoming film, talented actors James and his mother would never approve of. "I don't care how it looks." "You should," James said sharply. "Our family name opens doors for you that talent alone never would. Don't forget that." After James left, Noah stood in the empty kitchen, still feeling the warmth of Amina's presence. For the first time in years, he'd felt like himself tonight. Not Noah Kensington the star, just Noah. The next few weeks passed in a blur of publicity appearances and filming. Noah found himself looking forward to coming home, where Amina would be in his kitchen creating something wonderful. Their conversations grew longer, more personal. Sometimes he would sit and watch her cook, mesmerized by her confidence and skill. One evening, he returned from a particularly exhausting day on set to find Amina dancing around his kitchen to music playing from her phone, singing along as she stirred something that smelled divine. She jumped when she saw him. "Oh, I didn't hear you come." "Don't stop on my account," Noah said, grinning. "What are you making? It smells amazing." "My grandmother's jollof rice," she said. "It's not on your meal plan, but you've been working so hard I thought you deserved a treat." The fact that she had noticed his exhaustion, that she cared enough to make something special, touched him deeply. "Want to join me?" he asked, when she served the rice. "I hate eating alone." They sat on his patio overlooking the ocean, the setting sun casting golden light across the water. Noah listened as Amina talked about her dreams of opening her own restaurant someday, serving dishes that honored her West African heritage while creating new flavors. Why haven't you? He asked. Opened your restaurant, I mean. Amina shrugged. Money, location, the usual obstacles, but I'm saving. Someday. I could help, Noah offered. No, she said firmly. When I do it, it'll be on my own terms, my own money. Noah admired her independence, so different from the people in his world, who were always looking for handouts or connections. What about you? She asked. If you could do anything without your family's expectations, what would it be? The question caught him off guard. No one had ever asked him that before. I'd take roles that matter, he said finally. Characters, with depth, stories that might change how people think. Not just the safe commercial projects my family approves. Why don't you? It's complicated, he sighed. The Kensington name comes with history. My grandfather did some terrible things, made his fortune partly through exploiting people, especially people of color. The families spent generations trying to bury that past, creating this perfect image. And you're part of maintaining that image? Amina asked gently. Sometimes I feel like that's all I am, Noah admitted. They talked until the stars came out, sharing hopes and regrets in the darkness. Noah felt walls crumbling inside him, walls he'd spent years building. As Amina prepared to leave, thunder rumbled in the distance. Sounds like a storm's coming, Noah said, looking at the dark clouds rolling in. Maybe you should wait it out. As if in response, rain began to pour, heavy drops pounding against the windows. I guess I don't have much choice, Amina said with a small laugh. Noah showed her to the living room, where they settled on his large sofa. He found an old movie on TV, and they watched together, the storm raging outside. Somehow, as the night progressed, the space between them disappeared. Noah's arm found its way around her shoulders, and Amina leaned into him, her head resting against his chest. We shouldn't be doing this, she whispered, but made no move to pull away. I know, Noah agreed, his heart racing. When their lips finally met, it felt inevitable, as if they had been moving toward this moment since the day they met. Her touch made him feel alive in ways he never had before. That night in the darkness of his bedroom, with rain lashing against the windows, Noah and Amina crossed a line they could never uncross. Her skin against his, their whispered words of desire. It was nothing like the scripted romances of his films. This was real, raw, and terrifying in its intensity. Afterward, as Amina slept beside him, Noah watched the rise and fall of her breath, knowing that everything had changed. There would be consequences, complications neither of them was prepared for. His family, the media, the public, all would have opinions about them. But for now, in the quiet of the night, with the woman who saw the real him sleeping in his arms, Noah allowed himself to imagine a different kind of life, one where he wasn't a Kensington first and a person second, one where love wasn't complicated by history, reputation, and expectations. Dawn was breaking when Amina stirred, her eyes opening, to find him watching her. No regrets? She asked softly. Noah traced the curve of her cheek with his finger. Not one. But as the sun rose higher, reality began to intrude. Amina dressed quickly, the professional mask slipping back into place. This can't happen again, she said, though her eyes told a different story. I need this job, Noah, and you. You have your life. What if I want a different life? He asked, taking her hands. What if I want you in it? It's not that simple. It could be. She kissed him one last time before leaving, a kiss that felt like both a promise and a goodbye. For the next week, they tried to maintain their professional relationship, but the tension between them was electric. Each brush of hands, each shared glance pulled them closer to the edge. It was only a matter of time before they gave in again. And again, they were careful, discreet. To the outside world, she was still his chef, nothing more. But behind closed doors, they created their own universe where names and backgrounds didn't matter. 3 months into their secret relationship, Noah was preparing for an overseas press tour that would keep him away for 2 weeks. The night before his departure, they lay tangled in his sheets, savoring their last hours together. I'll miss you, Noah said, holding her close. "It's just 2 weeks," Amina replied, but her fingers tightened around his. "When I get back, let's go away somewhere, just us. No schedules, no pretending." Amina hesitated. "Noah, we need to talk about where this is going. We can't keep sneaking around forever." "I know," he said, kissing her forehead. "That's why I want us to have time away, to figure things out." The next morning he left for Europe, his heart lighter than it had been in years. During interviews, reporters noticed a change in him. "You seem different," one journalist commented. "More relaxed, happier." Noah just smiled. "Maybe I'm finally figuring out what matters." What he didn't know was that back in Malibu, Amina was sitting in her bathroom staring at a positive pregnancy test, her hands shaking. She was carrying Noah Kensington's child, and her life was about to get very, very complicated. Amina stared at the pregnancy test in disbelief. 2 pink lines, unmistakable. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. "This can't be happening," she whispered to her empty apartment, but it was happening. After 3 more tests showed the same result, there was no denying it. She was pregnant with Noah Kensington's baby. Her hands trembled as she made herself a cup of tea. What was she going to do? They had been careful most of the time, but careful wasn't enough. Noah was halfway across the world, smiling for cameras, charming interviewers. Meanwhile, she was here, facing a reality that would change both their lives forever. Should she tell him? Of course she should. But how? Over the phone? That seemed wrong. But waiting 2 weeks until he returned felt impossible too. Amina placed a hand on her still flat stomach. A baby. Noah's baby, their baby. Part of her, a small hopeful part, imagined that Noah might be happy about this, that he might want to build a life with her and their child, but the realistic part of her knew better. Noah lived in a different world. His family would never accept her, especially not like this. Her phone rang, startling her. Noah's face appeared on the screen. Taking a deep breath, she answered. "Hey," his voice came through, warm and familiar. "I miss you." "I miss you too," she said, fighting to keep her voice steady. "You okay? You sound strange." Amina bit her lip. "Just tired." "How's the press tour?" "Exhausting. Same questions, different cities." He paused. "I wish you were here." "Noah, The words caught in her throat. "What is it?" "Nothing. We'll talk when you get back." After they hung up, Amina curled up on her couch, hugging a pillow to her chest. She had 2 weeks to figure out what to do. The next day, she went to work at Noah's house as usual. His housekeeper, Maria, greeted her with a smile. "Mr. Kensington called this morning," Maria said. "He asked me to help you prepare meals he can freeze for when he returns." Amina nodded, grateful for the distraction of work. As she chopped vegetables, a wave of nausea hit her suddenly. She rushed to the bathroom, barely making it in time. When she emerged, pale and shaky, Maria was waiting with a glass of water. "Are you sick?" the older woman asked, concern in her eyes. "Must be something I ate," Amina lied, taking the water gratefully. Maria studied her face. "Or something else, perhaps." Amina froze. "What do you mean?" The housekeeper's expression softened. "I've raised 4 children, dear. I recognize morning sickness when I see it." Tears filled Amina's eyes before she could stop them. Maria led her to a chair. "How far along?" Maria asked gently. "I just found out yesterday, but probably about 6 weeks." Maria nodded, her face carefully neutral. "And Mr. Kensington?" "Doesn't know yet." "I see." Maria patted her hand. "Your secret is safe with me for now, but secrets have a way of revealing themselves in this house." Over the next few days, Amina struggled to maintain her routine. Morning sickness hit at random times, and exhaustion overwhelmed her by mid-afternoon. She started bringing crackers to nibble on throughout the day, which helped somewhat. A week before Noah was due to return, Amina was in his kitchen preparing a weekly meal plan when the front door opened. Expecting Maria, she called out a greeting. Instead, Eleanor Kensington appeared in the doorway. Noah's mother was the picture of old money elegance, silver-streaked blonde hair styled perfectly, expensive jewelry gleaming at her throat and wrists. Her critical gaze swept over Amina. "You must be the chef," Eleanor said coolly. "Yes, ma'am, Amina Blake." She wiped her hands on a towel, suddenly conscious of her simple work clothes. "My son speaks highly of your cooking." Eleanor wandered around the kitchen, inspecting everything with a critical eye. "He mentioned you make an excellent salmon dish." "Thank you," Amina replied, keeping her voice professional despite her pounding heart. This was the first time she'd met any of Noah's family besides James. "I was just checking in on the house while Noah's away," Eleanor explained, though Amina hadn't asked. "He returns next week, I believe." "Yes, on Wednesday," Eleanor nodded. "There's a gala fundraiser on Friday evening. The Kensington Foundation hosts it annually. Noah will be attending, of course." She paused. "With Alexandra Hamilton." The name struck Amina like a slap. Alexandra Hamilton, the society daughter James had mentioned. "I see," Amina managed to say, her hands trembling slightly as she returned to chopping herbs. "The Hamiltons and Kensingtons go back generations," Eleanor continued, watching Amina's reaction closely. "It would be a suitable match. Alexandra is quite lovely, Harvard-educated, from the right sort of family." Each word was a dagger. Amina kept her eyes fixed on her work, refusing to give Eleanor the satisfaction of seeing her pain. "Noah needs someone who understands his position, his responsibilities to the family name," Eleanor added. "Someone appropriate." The message was clear. Someone not like you. "I'm sure Mr. Kensington knows what's best for him," Amina said, forcing herself to look Eleanor in the eye. Something flickered across the older woman's face. Recognition, perhaps, or suspicion. Eleanor stepped closer. "You seem like a sensible, young woman, Miss Blake. I hope you understand that people in my son's position have certain obligations, certain limitations on their personal choices." Amina swallowed hard. "I'm just his chef, Mrs. Kensington." Eleanor's perfectly painted lips curved into a cold smile. "Good. Then we understand each other." After Eleanor left, Amina sank onto a kitchen stool, one hand instinctively covering her stomach. How could she bring a child into this world of judgment and prejudice? A child who would be torn between two vastly different worlds. When Noah called that night, she almost didn't answer. But she needed to hear his voice, even if it made everything harder. "One more week," he said excitedly. "Then we'll take that trip I promised, just you and me." "Noah," Amina began, her resolve weakening. "There's something I need to tell you." "Hold. That thought," he interrupted. "My agent's calling on the other line, probably about the new script. I'll call you back in 15 minutes, okay?" But he didn't call back that night, or the next day. When he finally called again, 2 days later, he was full of apologies. Things got crazy here. They added more interviews, and then there was a dinner with some producers. "It's fine," Amina said, though it wasn't. Nothing was fine anymore. "What were you going to tell me?" Noah asked. Amina closed her eyes. "Not like this. Not over the phone with thousands of miles between them. It can wait until you're home," she said. The day of Noah's return dawned bright and clear. Amina arrived at his house early, preparing his favorite welcome home meal. She wore a looser shirt than usual, though her pregnancy wasn't showing yet. When she heard his car in the driveway, her heart leaped. Then fear gripped her. How would he react? Would this be the last meal she'd ever cook in this kitchen? Noah burst through the door, his face lighting up when he saw her. Before she could speak, he swept her into his arms, kissing her deeply. "God, I missed you." He murmured against her lips. "I missed you too," she whispered back, allowing herself this moment of happiness before everything changed. They ate dinner on the patio, Noah sharing stories from his trip. Amina listened, trying to memorize every detail. Of his face, the sound of his laugh, just in case. "You're quiet tonight," he said finally, taking her hand. "What's wrong?" Amina took a deep breath. It was time. "Noah, I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air between them. Noah's expression froze, his eyes widening. "You're what?" "Pregnant." Her voice was steadier now. "About 7 weeks along." Noah sat back in his chair, shock written across his face. "Are you sure?" "Yes, I've taken 4 tests and I've been sick in the mornings." He ran a hand through his hair, his mind clearly racing. We were careful." "Not careful enough, apparently." A heavy silence fell between them. Amina felt her heart breaking with each passing second. This was it, the moment, where he would tell her it was a mistake, offer money for her to take care of it, or suggest she raise the child alone. Instead, Noah stood up and walked to the edge of the patio, staring out at the ocean. His back was to her, shoulders tense. "Say something," Amina finally pleaded. When Noah turned around, there were tears in his eyes. "A baby," he said softly. "Our baby." He crossed the space between them in 3 strides, kneeling beside her chair and taking her hands in his. "Amina, I know this isn't what we planned, but I want you to know that I'm here. Whatever you decide, whatever you want to do, I'll support you." Relief flooded through her. "You're not angry." "Angry? No." He squeezed her hands. Surprised, yes. Terrified, definitely. But not angry. Never that. Tears slipped down Amina's cheeks. "I was so afraid to tell you." Noah brushed the tears away with his thumb. "Why?" "Because of who you are. Your family. I met your mother while you were gone." His expression darkened. "What did she say to you?" "Nothing, directly. But she made it clear what kind of woman she thinks belongs with you. Someone like Alexandra Hamilton, who you're apparently taking to some gala on Friday." Noah cursed under his breath. "I'm not taking anyone to any gala. My mother is still trying to set up that match, but I've told her repeatedly I'm not interested." He pulled Amina to her feet and into his arms. "The only woman I want is you. The only future I want is with you. And now, with our child." His hand rested gently on her stomach. "Our baby," he whispered, wonder in his voice. That night, they lay in bed talking about possibilities, plans, hopes. Noah wanted her to move in immediately. Amina was hesitant. "Let's not rush things," she said. "This is all happening so fast. But I want to take care of you, both of you." "I can take care of myself," she reminded him, "and our baby. I just need to know you'll be there." "Always," he promised, holding her close. "Always." The next morning, reality intruded. Noah's agent called, reminding him about the charity gala. When Noah said he wouldn't be attending, the agent insisted. "It's for your family's foundation, Noah. The press will be there. Your absence would raise questions." After hanging up, Noah turned to Amina. "Come with me." She stared at him. "To the gala? Are you serious?" "Absolutely. It's time people knew about us anyway." Amina shook her head. "Noah, think about what you're saying. The gossip, the scandal. I don't care about any of that." "But I do," she said firmly. "I'm not ready to be thrown into the spotlight, to have my life picked apart by strangers, and I'm definitely not ready to announce a pregnancy to the world before I've even seen a doctor." Noah's face fell, but he nodded. "You're right, I'm sorry. This affects you more than me." He took her hands. "What do you want to do?" "Let's take things one step at a time. I'll make a doctor's appointment. You go to the gala alone, keep up appearances for now. We'll figure out how to tell your family together when the time is right." Noah agreed reluctantly. The next few days passed in a blur of emotion. Amina made an appointment with an obstetrician, and Noah insisted on coming with her. In the doctor's office, they received their first shock. "Congratulations," the doctor said, looking at the ultrasound screen. "You're having twins." "Twins?" Noah repeated, his face pale. "Yes. See here." The doctor pointed to the screen. "2 separate embryos. It's too early to determine the sex, but both appear to be developing normally." Amina couldn't speak. One baby had seemed overwhelming enough. But 2? Noah squeezed her hand. "2 babies," he whispered, a slow smile spreading across his face. 2 little miracles. His joy was infectious, and Amina found herself smiling too, despite her fears. That night, Noah went to the gala alone as planned. Amina stayed at her apartment, trying to distract herself with television. But curiosity got the better of her. She searched online for coverage of the event, knowing photos would be posted in real time. Sure enough, there was Noah on the red carpet, handsome in his tuxedo, and beside him, holding his arm and smiling for the cameras, was a stunning blonde woman that media outlets identified as Alexandra Hamilton. Amina's heart sank. She knew it was just for show, that Noah had explained he needed to keep up appearances temporarily. But seeing him with the perfect society woman, the kind his mother approved of, hurt more than she'd expected. Her phone chimed with a text from Noah. "Missing you, will call as soon as I can escape." She typed back a simple okay and put the phone down. An hour later, her doorbell rang. Confused, Amina went to answer it. Noah stood there, still in his tuxedo, his tie loosened. "What are you doing here?" she asked, shocked. "The gala—" "I left early." He stepped inside, pulling her into his arms. "I couldn't stand it, pretending to be interested in Alexandra's charity work while all I could think about was you. And how are babies?" Amina melted into his embrace. "But won't people notice you left?" "Let them notice. Let them wonder." He kissed her softly. "I'm done living for other people's expectations." The next morning, Amina woke to the sound of Noah's phone ringing incessantly. He answered groggily, then sat up straight. "Slow down." "James," he said, "what article?" Amina watched as Noah's expression hardened. He ended the call and immediately opened a news app on his phone. His face went pale. "What is it?" Amina asked, fear creeping into her voice. Noah turned the phone so she could see. There on the screen was a grainy photo of them together. Noah kissing her goodbye at her apartment door a week before he left for Europe. The headline read, "Hollywood's most eligible bachelor Noah Kensington in secret relationship with staff member." The article mentioned that sources close to the actor confirmed he had been involved with his private chef for months, calling it a workplace romance that had been kept hidden from the public and his family. "How did they get this?" Amina whispered, scanning the article in horror. "Someone's been watching us," Noah said grimly. "Probably hired by my family or the studio. They're always monitoring my image." His phone rang again, his mother this time. Noah declined the call. "What do we do now?" Amina asked, her hand instinctively going to her stomach. Noah took a deep breath. "Now we stop hiding. We face this together." He placed his hand over hers. "All four of us." But even as he spoke, they both knew that what lay ahead would test their love in ways they couldn't imagine. The world was about to weigh in on their relationship, and not everyone would be cheering for their happy ending. Noah's phone buzzed with a text from James. "Emergency family meeting. 3 p.m. Be there or face the consequences." The battle lines were being drawn and the Kensington family was preparing for war. Noah paced Amina's small living room, his phone buzzing non-stop with calls from his agent, his publicist and various family members. "You don't have to go," Amina said, watching him with worried eyes. The morning sickness had hit her hard and she looked pale and tired. "You could ignore them. If I don't face them now, they'll just show up here," Noah replied, running a hand through his hair. "And I don't want them anywhere near you, especially in your condition." He sat beside her on the couch, taking her hands in his. "I'll handle my family. You stay here and rest." "What are you going to tell them?" Noah's expression hardened with determination. "The truth. All of it." Amina's eyes widened. "Even about the babies? Especially about the babies." He placed a gentle hand on her stomach. "They're going to be part of my life, our lives, forever. My family needs to accept that." Before leaving, Noah called Maria and asked her to stay with Amina. "Take care of her," he instructed the housekeeper when she arrived. "And don't let anyone in except me." Maria nodded solemnly. "I will protect her, Mr. Kensington." The drive to the Kensington estate took Noah through the winding roads of Bel Air. The mansion where he'd grown up loomed like a fortress at the end of a long, curved driveway, 12 bedrooms, marble columns, and generations of old money contained within its walls. As expected, his brother's Bentley was already parked out front, along with his mother's Mercedes. Noah took a deep breath before entering the lion's den. In the grand living room, Eleanor Kensington sat regally on an antique sofa while James paced by the fireplace. Both turned when Noah entered. "Finally," James snapped. "Have you seen the headlines?" "The board members are calling. The foundation donors are concerned. Our stock is already down 3 points." "Hello to you too, brother," Noah said coldly. Eleanor rose, her face a mask of controlled anger. How could you be so careless? A fling with the help is one thing, but to let it become public— She's not the help, Mother, Noah interrupted. Her name is Amina Blake, and I love her. The room went silent. Noah had never spoken to his mother in that tone before. You can't be serious, James finally said. This is just a passing infatuation. An inconvenient one, certainly, but nothing that can't be managed. Managed, Noah repeated. Is that what we're calling it now? Like all the other inconveniences our family has managed over the years? Eleanor's face hardened. You're being dramatic, Noah. This is about protecting our name, our legacy. Your legacy, Noah corrected, built on exploitation and covered up with charity galas and political donations. That's enough! James slammed his hand on the mantelpiece. You've enjoyed every privilege that name has brought you. Your career would be nothing without it. Maybe it's time I found out what my career would be on my own merits, Noah challenged. Because this isn't just a scandal you can bury. Amina is pregnant, with twins. The shock on their faces would have been comical under different circumstances. Eleanor sank back onto the sofa, her hand at her throat. No, she whispered. Tell me you're joking. I've never been more serious in my life, Noah replied. I'm going to be a father, and Amina is going to be part of our family, whether you like it or not. James poured himself a drink, his hand slightly unsteady. This is a disaster. Do you have any idea what this will do to our reputation? The Kensington name mixed with— With what, James? Noah challenged. Say it. I want to hear you say exactly what you think is wrong with the mother of my children. James's face flushed. You know exactly what I mean. She's not one of us. And now she's conveniently pregnant with the children of one of Hollywood's wealthiest bachelors. How do you even know they're yours? Noah moved so quickly that James had no time to react. In an instant, Noah had his brother pinned against the wall, his forearm pressed against James's throat. If you ever suggest that again, Noah growled, brother or not, I will make you regret it. Noah, Eleanor cried, stop this at once. Noah released James, who straightened his tie with shaking hands. You've lost your mind, James rasped. She's turned you against your own family. No, Noah replied calmly. You've done that all by yourselves. Eleanor rose again, her composure recovered. There must be a reasonable solution. Perhaps we could offer the girl a settlement, enough to ensure the children are well provided for, without any public acknowledgement. Noah stared at his mother in disbelief. You're suggesting I pay Amina to disappear, to raise my children without their father? It's been done before, Eleanor said quietly, her eyes not meeting his. The implication hit Noah like a physical blow. By who? Grandfather? Father? A terrible thought occurred to him. By you. Eleanor's silence was answer enough. My God, Noah whispered. There are others, aren't there? Other Kensingtons kept hidden away because they weren't suitable. That's enough, James interrupted. Mother was only suggesting an option, one that would benefit everyone. Everyone except Amina and our children, Noah said bitterly. And me. He turned to leave, but Eleanor's voice stopped. Him? Noah, please think about what you're doing. The media will crucify her. They'll call her a gold digger, an opportunist. Is that what you want for her, for your children? For a moment, doubt crept into Noah's mind. He knew his mother was right about one thing. The press would be merciless. They would dig into Amina's past, twist her story, make her life a living hell. I'll protect her, he said firmly. Whatever it takes. You can't, James said, his voice calmer now. Not from this. Our PR team has already prepared a statement denying any serious relationship. We'll call it a brief fling, now over. We'll say you've reconciled with Alexandra. She's already agreed to play along. Noah's anger flared again. You've been busy, all without consulting me. Because we knew you'd be unreasonable, Eleanor replied. Noah, darling, please, sleep. On it, don't make any rash decisions. It's too late for that, Noah said. My decision is made. I'm going to be with Amina and our children. If that means walking away from this family and everything it stands for, so be it. As he drove back to Amina's apartment, Noah's mind raced. He had meant every word he said to his family, but the reality of their situation was beginning to sink in. How would he protect Amina from the media frenzy that was sure to come? And what about his career? The studios might not want to work with him if he became too controversial. But when he walked through Amina's door and saw her curled up on the sofa, looking small and vulnerable, none of that mattered anymore. "How did it go?" she asked, her eyes searching his face. Noah sat beside her, pulling her into his arms. "About as well as expected. They're not happy, but they'll have to adjust." He didn't have the heart to tell her everything. About his mother's solution, about the PR statement already being prepared. Those were battles for another day. "What happens now?" Amina asked. "Now we face whatever comes together," Noah promised. "I'm not leaving your side." That night, as Amina slept beside him, Noah's phone lit up with a text from Miranda, his publicist. "Urgent. Call me. Statement going out at 9 a.m. tomorrow." Noah slipped out of bed and went to the living room to make the call. "Tell me you're not behind this statement James mentioned," Noah said without preamble. "Of course I am," Miranda replied. "It's my job to manage your image, Noah, and right now your image needs serious management. I don't want any statement released, not without my approval." Miranda sighed. "Noah, be reasonable. This girl, her name is Amina." "Fine. Amina. This relationship isn't good for your brand. The studios are already calling, concerned about the family-friendly film you're supposed to start next month. I don't care. Well, you should, because if you tank your career over this, what kind of provider will you be for these babies everyone's suddenly talking about? Are the pregnancy rumors true?" Noah hesitated. "Yes, she's expecting twins." Miranda was silent for a moment. "I see. That complicates things." "It simplifies them, actually," Noah countered. "I'm going to be a father. Nothing is more important than that." "Noah, I've known you for 10 years. I understand you're caught up in the moment, but think long-term. Your family name, your career, these are your children's inheritance. Do you really want to throw it all away?" Her words echoed his own doubts. "What are you suggesting?" "A middle ground. We don't deny the relationship completely, but we downplay it. Say you're friends who got carried away. Say you'll support her and the children financially, but make no claims about a future together. Give it time for the scandal to die down. And what about Amina? She just hides away while I pretend we're nothing to each other." "Temporarily," Miranda insisted. "For her protection as much as yours. The press will tear her apart, Noah. You know that." After hanging up, Noah stood at Amina's window, staring out at the city lights. The weight of their situation pressed down on him. Was he being selfish, insisting on going public with their relationship? Was he putting Amina and the babies at risk just to prove a point to his family? When morning came, Amina found him still on the sofa, dark circles under his eyes. "You didn't sleep," she observed, sitting beside him. "I had a lot to think about." Amina studied his face. "You're having second thoughts?" "No," he said quickly, taking her hand. "Never about us, but about how to handle this situation." "Yes." He told her about Miranda's call, about the statement his family wanted to release. "They think we should keep our relationship private for now. Let the scandal die down." "They want me to hide," Amina translated. "They say it's for your protection." Amina was quiet for a long moment. Maybe they're right. Noah looked at her in surprise. "What? Noah, I've seen how the media treats women like me. Women who get involved with men like you. They'll call me a gold digger, say I trapped you with these babies." She placed a hand on her stomach. "I don't care what they say about me, but I don't want our children to grow up reading those things about their mother. So what are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe we should be more careful, take things slower in public." Noah felt a flicker of relief, followed immediately by shame. Was he really considering hiding his relationship with the woman he loved to protect his image? What kind of man did that make him? "No," he said firmly. "I won't hide you away like some shameful secret. Whatever we face together, in the open." He pulled out his phone and dialed Miranda. "The only statement going out is this. Noah Kensington confirms that he is in a committed relationship with Amina Blake. They are expecting twins and request privacy during this special time. That's it, nothing else." After hanging up, he looked at Amina. I hope that was okay. Tears shimmered in her eyes. Are you sure about this? Once it's out there, we can't take it back. I've never been more sure of anything. Within hours of the statement's release, the media explosion began. Every entertainment outlet ran the story. Social media erupted with opinions, ranging from supportive to viciously racist. Paparazzi camped outside Amina's apartment building, making it impossible for her to leave without being harassed. Noah's agent called to inform him that the family-friendly film had gone in another direction. 2 endorsement deals were suddenly on hold. The Kensington Foundation issued a terse statement claiming Noah's personal life was separate from the family's charitable work. 3 days into the media storm, Noah made a decision. "We need to get away from here," he told Amina. "Somewhere private where you can rest and not worry about cameras in your face." "Where would we go?" Amina asked. "I have a place. A house on the Oregon coast that no one knows about. I bought it under a different name. We could go there until things calm down." Amina hesitated. "Running away seems like giving in." "It's not running away," Noah insisted. "It's protecting what matters most." He placed his hand on her growing belly. "The 3 of you are everything to me. Let me keep you safe." That night, they packed essentials and slipped out of Amina's apartment through the service entrance. Noah's security team had arranged for a car with tinted windows to take them to a private airfield, where a small plane waited. As they boarded, Noah's phone buzzed with a call from his mother. Against his better judgment, he answered. "Where are you?" Eleanor demanded. "Somewhere you can't reach us," Noah replied. "Don't try to find us, Mother. We need time away from all of this." "You're making a terrible mistake," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "This woman isn't worth losing everything for." Noah looked at Amina, who was settling into her seat, her hand protectively over her stomach. "You're wrong," he said quietly. "She's worth everything." He hung up and turned off his phone. The house on the Oregon coast was exactly what they needed. Secluded, peaceful, with panoramic views of the ocean. For the first time since the scandal broke, Amina could walk outside without fear of cameras or shouted questions. Their days fell into a gentle routine. Morning walks on the beach, afternoons spent planning for the baby's arrival, evenings curled up by the fireplace. Noah started writing a screenplay, something he'd always wanted to do but never had time for. Amina experimented with new recipes, her pregnancy cravings inspiring unusual but delicious combinations. "I could get used to this," Noah said one evening, watching the sunset from their deck. "Just us, away from all the noise." Amina leaned against him. "It's perfect, but it's not real life, Noah. Eventually, we have to go back." "Why?" "I have enough. Money. We could stay here, raise our children away from Hollywood and all its fakeness." "And your career, your acting?" Noah shrugged. "I can find independent projects, things that matter, not just the blockbusters my family approved of." Amina smiled but looked unconvinced. "And what about my restaurant dream? It's hard to open a successful restaurant in the middle of nowhere." "We could open one in Portland," Noah suggested. "It's only a few hours away, or anywhere you want, really." The conversation was interrupted by Noah's phone, which he had started turning on occasionally to check messages. He frowned at the screen. "It's Maria. She says it's urgent." The news wasn't good. James had called a board meeting of Kensington Enterprises and, using his position as CEO and Noah's absence, had convinced the board to remove Noah from his position as vice president. More importantly, he was attempting to restructure the family trust to limit Noah's access. "He can't do that," Noah said, pacing the living room. "Half of that company is mine by birthright." "What does this mean?" Amina asked, worry etched on her face. "It means my brother is trying to cut me off financially." Noah ran a hand through his hair. "I need to go back and fight this, just for a few days." "I'll come with you," Amina said immediately. "No," Noah shook his head. "You're safer here. The press is still camped outside my house in Malibu. I won't subject you to that stress, not in your condition." Amina didn't like it, but she agreed to stay behind while Noah returned to Los Angeles to confront his brother. The moment Noah's private plane landed in LA, his phone exploded with notifications. Miranda had been trying to reach him for days. The studio that had dropped him was now reconsidering, offering a different role. and Alexandra Hamilton had given an interview claiming she and Noah had been in a serious relationship when he strayed with Amina. "It's all lies," Noah told Miranda when they met at his Malibu house. "Alexandra and I were never a couple. We went to one charity event together, arranged by my mother." "I know that," Miranda said, "but the public doesn't. And her version makes you look like a cheater as well as a man who sleeps with the help." Noah's jaw tightened. "I want you to schedule me an interview. A big one. National television. It's time people heard the truth directly from me." "That's not a good idea," Miranda cautioned. "Your family has been controlling the narrative my entire life," Noah finished. "Not anymore." The confrontation with James was even worse than Noah had anticipated. His brother had prepared a detailed presentation for the board, arguing that Noah's reckless behavior and questionable judgment made him unfit for his position in the company. "You abandoned your responsibilities without notice," James told him coldly. "What did you expect?" "I expected my family to support me," Noah replied. "Instead, you're using this situation to grab power you've always resented me having." James leaned forward. "This isn't about power. It's about protecting what our grandfather built. You think the board wants the Kensington name associated with scandal? With a man who knocks up his servant?" Noah lunged across the desk, grabbing James by his expensive tie. "Say one more word about Amina and You'll what?" James taunted. "Hit me? Go ahead. Prove how unstable you are." With effort, Noah released him and stepped back. "This isn't over." "Actually, it is." James straightened his tie. "The board votes tomorrow, and they'll vote my way, little brother. I've made sure of it." Noah left the office, his mind racing. Without his position in the company, without access to the family trust, his financial situation would change dramatically. He had his own money, of course, movie earnings, investments, but much of his wealth was tied to the Kensington name. He called Amina that night, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "Everything's fine," he assured her. "Just some legal details to work out." But Amina knew him too well. "You're worried. I can hear it in your voice." "It's nothing I can't handle." Noah sighed. "I miss you. How are you feeling?" "Huge," Amina laughed. "These babies are growing so fast. The doctor in town says everything looks perfect." "I'll be back as soon as I can," Noah promised. But the next day brought more complications. The board voted as James had predicted, removing Noah from his position. His mother called, pleading with him to be reasonable. "It's not too late," Eleanor insisted. "If you end this relationship now, release a statement saying it was a mistake, James will reinstate you." "Never," Noah said firmly. "I won't betray Amina or my children." "Then you leave us no choice," Eleanor's voice hardened. "The family lawyers will be in touch about the trust." True to her word, the following morning, Noah received legal documents indicating the family was contesting his access to the Kensington Trust, citing obscure clauses about moral conduct and family reputation. "Can they do this?" Noah asked. His personal lawyer. The lawyer looked grim. "The trust is complicated. There are provisions that could be interpreted unfavorably. We can fight it, but it will be a long and public battle." Noah's scheduled television interview was 2 days away. Originally planned to tell his side of the story, it now took on greater importance. This wasn't just about defending his relationship with Amina, it was about fighting for their future. The night before the interview, Noah called Amina. "I need to tell you something," he said. "My family is trying to cut me off from the family money." "Oh, Noah," Amina's voice was thick with concern. "Because of me?" "No, because of their own prejudice and greed," Noah corrected. "But it might mean changes, financially." "I don't care about money," Amina said fiercely. "I never did. We'll be fine without it." Her confidence strengthened his resolve. "I'm doing an interview tomorrow. I'm going to tell the whole truth. About us, about my family, about everything." "Are you sure?" Amina asked. "There's no going back from that." "I'm sure," Noah said. "It's time I stood up for what really matters." What Noah didn't know was that back in Oregon, Amina had just hung up from another call, from Eleanor Kensington herself. His mother had somehow tracked down the location of their hideaway and made an offer that had left Amina shaken. $5 million. dollars to walk away, to leave Noah and raise the babies alone, with the condition that she never publicly identify him as the father. Think about it, Eleanor had said. You could open that restaurant you dream of. Give your children everything they need, and save Noah's career and reputation in the process. Amina had refused immediately, of course, but as she felt the babies kicking inside her, she couldn't help wondering, was she being selfish? Was staying with Noah going to cost him everything he'd worked for? For the first time since they'd fled to Oregon, Amina felt truly afraid, not of the press or the scandal, but of the choice she might have to make for the sake of the man she loved. The morning of Noah's interview dawned bright in Los Angeles, while rain pattered against the windows of the Oregon beach house where Amina sat alone, her thoughts as stormy as the weather outside. Eleanor Kensington's offer haunted her. $5 million to walk away from Noah, to raise their children without him. The thought made her physically ill, but a small voice in her head wouldn't be silenced. What if leaving was the best thing she could do for him? She placed her hands on her growing belly, feeling the twins move. What should I do? She whispered to her unborn children. Her phone rang, displaying Noah's number. She took a deep breath before answering. Morning, beautiful. Noah's voice was warm, though she could hear the tension underneath. How are you feeling today? We're fine, Amina said, trying to sound normal. Just missing you. I miss you too. So much. He paused. The interview is in 3 hours. After that, I'm coming home to you. Home. The word made Amina's heart ache. This temporary haven had become their sanctuary, but it wasn't a real life. Not yet. Noah, she began hesitantly, are you absolutely sure about this interview? More sure than I've ever been about anything. His voice grew stronger. I'm done hiding, done letting my family dictate my life. Today, I tell the world the truth, that I love you, that I'm thrilled about our babies, and that anyone who has a problem with that can deal with it. Tears filled Amina's eyes. How could she even consider Eleanor's offer when Noah was fighting so hard for them? I love you, she said, her voice breaking slightly. Hey, what's wrong? Noah asked, instantly. Alert. Nothing, she lied, just hormones. Good luck today, I'll be watching. After they hung up, Amina made a decision. She wouldn't tell Noah about Eleanor's visit. Not yet. He needed to focus on the interview without any distractions, but she wouldn't consider the offer either. They would face whatever came together as they had promised each other. In Los Angeles, Noah sat in the makeup chair at the GMA studios, mentally preparing for what would be the most important interview of his life. Miranda hovered nearby, still trying to convince him to be more diplomatic. You don't have to burn all your bridges, she said. Just be vague about the family issues. Focus on the positive, your relationship, the babies. I'm done with half-truths, Noah replied firmly. The public deserves to know who the Kensingtons really are. Just before he was due on set, his phone chimed with a text from James. Last chance, back out of this interview and we can negotiate. Go through with it, and there's no coming back. Noah deleted the message without responding. The interview started with standard questions about his relationship with Amina, how they met when they fell in love. Noah answered openly, his face lighting up when he spoke about her. And the pregnancy? The interviewer asked. That must have been a surprise. The best surprise of my life, Noah said sincerely. We're expecting twins. Your family is famously private, the interviewer noted. How have they reacted to all this? This was it, the moment Noah had been preparing for. He took a deep breath. Family has a long history of controlling narratives, he began, of protecting the Kensington name at all costs, even when that cost is human lives and dignity. The interviewer looked startled by his candor. The truth is, they've tried to end my relationship with Amina from the moment they found out about it. Not because of who she is, though their prejudice plays a part, but because they couldn't control it. That's a serious accusation. The fire. Interviewer said. It's the truth, Noah replied. My grandfather built his fortune partly through exploiting people of color. My father continued those practices in more subtle ways, and now my brother and mother maintain the illusion of the perfect, philanthropic Kensington family, while hiding the ugly reality. And what reality is that? Noah hesitated only briefly. That money and power have always mattered more to them than people, that they've paid off and silenced anyone who threatened their image, that right now they're attempting to cut me off financially for daring to love someone they didn't choose for me. Are you concerned about the consequences of speaking so openly? The only consequence I care about is what kind of father I'll be, Noah said, his voice softening. I want my children to know I stood up for what was right, that I chose love over money and truth over reputation. Everything else is secondary. Back in Oregon, Amina watched the interview with tears streaming down her face. Noah was risking everything for her, for them. The thought that she had even momentarily considered Eleanor's offer now filled her with shame. As Noah continued to speak honestly about his family's attempts to control him, his phone began to ring in the green room. Miranda checked it, then rushed to the edge of the set, trying to catch his attention. Something in her frantic gestures made Noah pause mid-sentence. "I'm sorry," he said to the interviewer. "Is something wrong?" Miranda was allowed onto the set. She whispered urgently in his ear, "It's Amina. She's being rushed to the hospital." Color drained from Noah's face. He stood abruptly. "I have to go," he told the interviewer. "Family emergency." The program cut to commercial as Noah rushed off stage, already dialing Amina's number. When she didn't answer, panic seized him. "What happened?" he demanded of Miranda. "The caretaker at the Oregon house called." Amina collapsed. "They think it might be preeclampsia." Noah's world narrowed to a single focus, getting to Amina. Within an hour, he was on a private plane, his interview and family drama temporarily forgotten in the face of this new crisis. During the agonizing flight, Noah called the hospital repeatedly for updates. Amina was stable, they told him, but her blood pressure was dangerously high. The twins were showing signs of distress. The doctors were monitoring the situation closely. When he finally reached the small coastal hospital, Noah ran through the corridors following a nurse's directions to the maternity ward. He found Amina in a private room, looking pale and small against the white sheets, monitors beeping steadily around her. "Amina," he whispered. Taking her hand, her eyes fluttered open. "Noah, you're here." "Of course I'm here." He kissed her forehead, noting with alarm how clammy her skin felt. "What happened?" "I started feeling dizzy after your interview." Then sharp pains. She placed a hand on her belly. "The babies are doing okay for now," said a voice from the doorway. A doctor in scrubs entered, chart in hand. "But we're concerned about your condition, Ms. Blake. Your blood pressure is still too high, and we're seeing signs of organ stress." "What does that mean?" Noah asked, fear gripping his heart. "It means we're considering an emergency C-section," the doctor replied. "The babies are at 32 weeks, premature, but with a good chance of healthy development. Continuing the pregnancy may put both Ms. Blake and the twins at risk." Amina's hand tightened around Noah's. "I'm scared," she admitted in a small voice. "I'm right here," Noah promised. "I'm not going anywhere." The next few hours passed in a blur of tests and monitoring. The doctors decided to try medication first, hoping to stabilize Amina's condition enough to delay delivery. But by evening, her blood pressure had spiked again and the decision was made. The twins needed to be delivered immediately. "I'll be in the operating room with you," Noah assured her as they prepped her for surgery. Amina looked up at him, fear and love mingling in her eyes. "I need to tell you something. Your mother came to see me." Noah froze. "What? When?" "Yesterday. She offered me money to leave you. $5 million. Anger flashed across Noah's face. "She had no right—" "I said no," Amina interrupted. "I would never take it, but I was afraid. Afraid that staying with me would cost you everything." Noah's expression softened. He took her face in his hands. "You and these babies are everything. The rest is just stuff. Money, status. None of it matters without you." A tear slipped down Amina's cheek. "I saw your interview. You were amazing." "I meant every word," Noah said. "And when this is over, when you and our babies are safe, we'll build a new life together, on our terms." The nurse came to take Amina to the operating room. Noah, dressed in surgical scrubs, followed. As they prepared to begin the procedure, he held Amina's hand, whispering words of encouragement and love. The surgery happened quickly. First came a daughter, her tiny cry making Noah's heart swell with a love he'd never experienced before. 2 minutes later, a son joined her, smaller but with surprisingly strong lungs. "They're beautiful," Noah said, tears streaming down his face as the nurses showed him his children before taking them to the NICU. But as he turned back to share the moment with Amina, he noticed the sudden flurry of activity around her. The monitors were beeping rapidly, and the doctor was barking urgent orders. "What's happening?" Noah demanded, panic rising in his throat. "She's hemorrhaging," a nurse explained, gently but firmly guiding him away from the table. "You need to let the doctors work." Noah found himself in the hallway, the doors swinging closed on the scene of medical staff fighting to save Amina's life. He slumped against the wall, praying as he had never prayed before. Time stretched endlessly. Noah alternated between sitting with his premature twins in the NICU, marveling at their perfect tiny fingers and toes, and pacing outside the operating room where Amina remained. Finally, the surgeon emerged, looking tired but relieved. "She's stable," he told Noah. "We had to perform an emergency hysterectomy to stop the bleeding, but she's going to be okay." Relief flooded through Noah, so powerful, it made his knees weak. "Can I see her?" "She's in recovery now. You can see her soon, but she'll be groggy from the anesthesia." Noah nodded, tears of gratitude blurring his vision. "Thank you for saving her." When Amina finally woke in the recovery room, Noah was by her side, holding her hand. "The babies?" were her first words, her voice weak. "They're perfect," Noah assured her. "Small but fighters, like their mother." Tears filled Amina's eyes. "I was so afraid I wouldn't get to see them." "They're right here in the hospital, getting stronger by the hour. As soon as you're able, I'll take you to them." He hesitated, then added gently, "There were complications. The doctors had to perform a hysterectomy. I'm so sorry, Amina." She was quiet for a long moment, absorbing this news. "We have our twins," she finally said. "That's what matters." Noah kissed her hand. "I love you so much." "Even with all the trouble I've brought to your life?" she asked weakly. "You haven't brought trouble. You've brought love, purpose, family, real family." He stroked her hair, "The kind worth fighting for." Over the next 2 weeks, Amina recovered her strength while the twins, whom they named Zara and Zain, grew steadily in the NICU. Noah rarely left the hospital, splitting his time between Amina's room and the twins' incubators. The outside world seemed far away, but it hadn't forgotten them. Noah's interview had created a firestorm. The Kensington Foundation released a statement distancing itself from his personal views. Several board members resigned in protest. The family's stock dropped significantly. James called once, his voice cold with fury. "You've destroyed decades of careful image management in one interview. I hope you're satisfied." "I am," Noah replied, simply. "How does it feel having the truth out there for once?" Meanwhile, public reaction was mixed but trending positive. Many praised Noah's honesty and courage. Support flooded in from fans, fellow actors, and advocacy groups. 3 studios reached out with project offers, smaller films, independent productions, but meaningful stories. Most surprisingly, several people came forward with their own stories of being silenced by the Kensington family over the years, including a woman in her 50s who claimed to be the daughter of Noah's uncle, hidden away with hush money. Eleanor made no direct contact, but a lavish bouquet arrived at the hospital with a card that read simply, "Congratulations on the birth of your children." No signature, but Noah recognized his mother's favorite florist. "An olive branch?" Amina asked when he showed her the card. "Maybe," Noah said, "or just keeping up appearances." After 3 weeks, the twins were strong enough to leave the hospital. Noah had arranged for a private nurse to help them at the beach house for the first month. On the day they brought Zara and Zain home, Noah had another surprise for Amina. While she settled the babies in the nursery they'd prepared, he led her to the kitchen where architectural plans were spread across the table. "What's this?" she asked, examining the drawings. "Your restaurant," Noah said simply. "There's a perfect location in Portland, An old converted warehouse with character and space. I've put a deposit down, but the final decision is yours." Amina's eyes widened. "Noah, we can't. You've lost so much already." "I haven't lost anything." "That matters," he interrupted. "Yes, my family has cut me off from the trust. Yes, some doors in Hollywood might be closed for now, but I still have my own money from my work. We're not poor, Amina, not even close. But your career is changing, not ending. I've already signed on for an independent film, a role I'm actually excited about." He took her hands. "And more. Importantly, I've started my own production company. I want to tell stories that matter, that might change the way people think. Just like I told you that night on the patio." Tears filled Amina's eyes. "You remembered." "I remember everything about us," Noah said softly. "Every moment that led us here." He guided her to the living room windows, where the ocean stretched before them, vast and full of possibilities. "What do you see out there?" he asked. Amina looked at the horizon, then back at Noah. "Freedom," she said, "a new beginning." "That's what I see too." He wrapped his arms around her. "We can build whatever life we want. Your restaurant, my new company, our family. What about your parents, your brother?" Noah sighed. "Time will tell. My mother's flowers, it's a start, a small one. James may never come around, but that's his choice." From the nursery came the soft cry of one of the twins. Amina smiled. "Sounds like Zayn is awake." They walked hand in hand to the nursery, where both babies were now stirring. Noah picked up Zayn while Amina cradled Zara. "Look at what we made," Noah whispered, awe in his voice as he gazed at his son's tiny face. All the money in the world couldn't buy this feeling. 6 months later, Amina stood in the center of her nearly completed restaurant, surveying the work around her. The space was coming together beautifully: warm wood tones, African-inspired artwork, and an open kitchen where she could showcase her culinary skills. "What do you think?" asked the interior designer. "The lighting fixtures arrive next week, and then we're almost done." "It's perfect," Amina said, emotion making her voice thick. Her dream was becoming reality. The restaurant, which she had named Zara and Zayn's after the twins, was scheduled to open in 1 month. Advance reservations were already filling up, partly due to curiosity about Noah Kensington's chef girlfriend, but increasingly because of positive press about Amina's innovative menu. As the designer left, Noah arrived with the twins in their double stroller. At 9 months old, they were thriving. Zara with Amina's dark curls and Noah's blue eyes, Zayn with Noah's dimples and Amina's warm brown eyes. "Look who wanted to see Mommy," Noah said, kissing Amina hello. She knelt to shower the babies with kisses, then stood to really look at Noah. Despite everything they'd been through, he seemed happier than she'd ever seen him. The constant tension he used to carry had melted away, replaced by a genuine ease in his own skin. His production company had just wrapped its first project, a documentary about hidden histories in wealthy American families that was already generating buzz for festival season. He'd taken a supporting role in an acclaimed director's latest film, earning early praise from critics who noted his newfound depth. "I have news," Noah said, a mysterious smile playing at his lips. "Good news, I hope," Amina asked. "My mother called. She wants to meet the twins." Amina froze. "Really? After all this time?" It had been over a year since the scandal first broke, 9 months since the twins' dramatic birth. In that time, Eleanor had maintained her distance, communicating only through occasional flowers or brief notes. "She's coming to Portland next week," Noah continued. "She says she's been doing a lot of thinking, and she mentioned she'd like to try your cooking." "Is that so?" Amina raised an eyebrow. "And how do you feel about this?" Noah considered the question. "Cautiously optimistic. She's making an effort, which is more than I expected. I've been clear that you and the twins are my family now. She's welcome in our lives only if she respects that." Amina nodded slowly. "I suppose everyone deserves a second chance." The following week, Eleanor Kensington arrived at their Portland home, looking nervous in a way Noah had never seen before. She brought gifts for the twins, beautiful handmade toys that must have taken time to select. The meeting was awkward. At first, with Eleanor clearly uncomfortable and unsure how to act around Amina. But when Zara reached for her grandmother's pearls with a determined little hand, the ice began to thaw. Over dinner, prepared by Amina with special care, Eleanor finally addressed the elephant in the room. "I owe you both an apology," she said, setting down her fork. "Especially you, Amina. What I did, trying to pay you to leave, undermining your relationship, it was unforgivable." "What changed your mind?" Noah asked, still wary. Eleanor's gaze dropped to the twins, playing on a blanket nearby. "Them, partly. My grandchildren," she sighed. "And I've had a lot of time to reflect on the kind of person I've become, the values I've prioritized." She looked at Amina. "The food is extraordinary, by the way. Your restaurant will be a success." "Thank you," Amina said quietly. "I don't expect instant forgiveness," Eleanor continued, "but I hope with time I might be allowed to be part of their lives. And yours." She didn't mention James, and Noah didn't ask. Some bridges would take longer to rebuild, if they ever could be. That night, after Eleanor had gone to her hotel and the twins were asleep, Noah and Amina stood on their back deck, looking at the stars over Portland. "What are you thinking?" Noah asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "That life is strange," Amina replied. "A year and a half ago I was just your chef. Now I'm opening my own restaurant, raising our beautiful children, and having dinner with Eleanor Kensington." Noah laughed softly. "When I hired you, I was just looking for someone to cook my meals. I never expected to find the love of my life." Amina turned in his arms to face him. "Any regrets? About everything you gave up?" Noah shook his head. "I didn't give up anything worth keeping, and what I gained." He smiled, glancing toward the nursery where their children slept. "There's no comparison." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "I've been waiting for the right moment, and somehow this feels like it." Amina's eyes widened as he opened the box to reveal a stunning but understated diamond ring. "No, we've done everything backward," Noah said with a smile. "Babies first, then living together. But I'd like to do this part traditionally." He dropped to one knee. "Amina Blake, will you marry me?" Tears shimmered in Amina's eyes. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times yes." As Noah slipped the ring onto her finger, she added with a teasing smile, "Though I hope you know I'm keeping my last name for the restaurant." Noah laughed. "I wouldn't have it any other way." He stood and pulled her into his arms. Their kiss was a promise of love that had withstood unimaginable pressure, of a future built on their own terms, of a family bound together not by name or legacy, but by something far more powerful. The forbidden love that had scandalized Hollywood had transformed into something beautiful and enduring. Noah and Amina had risked everything for each other, and in doing so, had gained the one thing his family's money could never buy: a love without conditions, a love forever bound. In the nursery, the twins slept peacefully, unaware of the journey that had brought them into the world or the challenges their parents had overcome. They knew only that they were loved, completely, unconditionally, and across all boundaries. And in the end, that was all that really mattered.